Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode on my YouTube channel of Jim's 5am Club. It's another wet old Sydney day. The P&O cruiser, as you can see, has left our shores, and I've come to my Plan B haunt, which is Wharf Jetty number 6 here at Circular Quay, where I can be out of the elements and at least be able to deliver yet another book summary, yet another 5am Club. And today's one is an absolute cracker, and we'll get stuck into it straight away because I just can't wait to share some of the learnings that I gained today from this wonderful book, because one of the objectives of Jim's 5am Club is to showcase and highlight the beauty in this country around us. And even though it's raining today, even though it's still dark, even though we're shrouded in cover, in cloud, it never ceases to amaze me how each book that we come across has a treasure trove of learnings, a treasure trove of knowledge, wisdom, and OPE, other people's experiences that have been thought through, that have been articulated, have been lived, learned, and our job is to take it, incorporate it into our lives where possible, and pass it on. So without further ado, let's get into this book summary and see where it can take us on this wet old Sydney day, a Wednesday, the middle of the work week, what's known as hump day, and we'll see. So the book is entitled The Mum Test. The Mum Test, by an author known as Rob Fitzpatrick. And the author basically takes us through and highlights some of the things that we would have learnt from our mothers years ago. The Mum Test is the ability to look us in the eye and to ask direct questions, to cut through the BS and to find out exactly what's going on, because mums need to know what's going on in our lives in order to make sure that we're on track and to make sure that we're safe and away from harm. So the author talks about the Mum Test, and he said that, and he calls us to action, and he says that you should be terrified of at least one of the questions you are asking in every conversation. And by being terrified, I think he means that when you ask the right questions of people around you, you get insights, and those insights can be comforting insights, but they can also discomfort. Sometimes the harsh reality or the harsh truths in this world that we live in are a little bit hard to deal with. But you're better off knowing where you stand. You're better off accessing and tapping into exactly how other people feel and what their intentions are, rather than wasting your time, wasting your valuable time trying to assess what is going on in your world, and to I guess make the most of the time and the opportunities that you've got available to you. So Rob Fitzpatrick's rule of thumb is to ask the right questions and to break through the BS, break through the chatter, because what we learn in life is that we need to make decisions, and we need to make the right decisions, and those decisions come through our conversations, and there are different levels of decisions that we make in our lives, and that not all choices are equal. Not all choices are the same in importance. So this book is all about knowing and finding out, and how you can really tell what people think of you and your ideas or your pitch, and to eliminate and minimise the lying that they do towards you, because a lot of people lie in order to make us feel good, in order to comfort us. But what they're actually doing through their lying is that they're giving us false hope. And this book talks about the importance of not dealing or not being sucked into that false hope, and making the most of the relationships that you have with people around you, so that you're not wasting your time, you're not wasting their time, and you're getting the most you can out of your resources and out of the life that you have. So a lot of people we will find in our lives will lie to us just to make us feel good, and they'll lie to us to try and avoid commitment, to try and avoid having to do something. So they'll make us feel good. They'll tell us how wonderful we are and how wonderful our idea is. But it's only when you ask the mum questions, it's only when you dig deeper and you pry and you get to the bottom of things that you find out what they really feel. And that in itself is quite liberating. The last thing you want in life, the last thing you want in your relationship, the last thing you want in your career is to live with false hope, to live with a hope that something will eventuate or a future will unravel, which actually won't. Because what you're doing is you're wasting your time, and you're actually wasting their time as well. So in our lives, this author is calling us to action and saying that we really need to cut to the chase and eliminate the BS, and to be around and to be dealing with people who are truthful with us, even though that truth may hurt us initially. As I said before, what it does is it liberates us, and at least it gives us an opportunity to make the right choices that are going to impact our current situation, which will impact, of course, our future situation as well. So there you go. That's the crux of this book. That's what we're trying to achieve. So the mum test gives us tips and tricks to spot the fakes, to spot the falsehoods and the little lies that people offer up to protect themselves, and also to, in their view, to protect us from feeling bad. But you're better off feeling a little bit bad rather than to spend your whole life chasing something which will never eventuate in the terms of unrequited love or unrequited commitment from the other person. So by asking the right questions, by asking the mum type questions, the author here says that we are going to reveal some authentic insights and not be hoodwinked into thinking the world is a particular way, shape and taste, but to gain some reality and to open up our future by at least allowing us to know where we stand at this point in time. So the important thing, according to this author, is to ask the right questions, and the right questions are the ones that help you gain commitment rather than compliments. My spiritual father always says that he feels very uneasy when people compliment him all the time, because he says that through compliments you don't really grow. you don't really know where you stand. You're better off having people being harshly truthful with you, so that at least you know what they think or how they perceive your contribution and your situation, and then you can decide either to accept it or to change it. But you only get there through having committed conversations where you ask the right questions and you get a truthful response from other people. So the first formal point to come from this book is that sometimes people offer compliments in order to get out of a conversation and to avoid investment and commitment. And a good salesperson, a great salesperson, knows that you don't gain anything by wasting your time talking to prospects who have no intention of buying, who are not in the market. You're just wasting your time, and you're wasting their time, where you could be investing that time in other prospects who at least are half in the market and who are truthful with you, so you know that you're not talking to the wrong person. So we need to learn to ask the right questions and look for real data and harsh truths. And as we said, it's tricky, it's painful. Being in sales is not easy. But I remember working at Advantra, and there was a sales director there. I forget his name. His name has just escaped me for the moment. But he came from the IBM side of the business, and I remember how aggressive he was in his questioning of the sales managers and of the sales people to assess whether or not they did have a strong and a honest working relationship with their clients, so that he knew whether or not he was being BS to, bullshitted to, and he would grill them. He would grill them like a mother. I remember how uncomfortable it was being in those meetings where he'd be targeting the questions to them, and if you lied to him, he would pick it up and he would make your life absolute hell. But the good thing about it was that he knew what he was talking about. In hindsight, he knew what he was talking about, and he knew that there was nothing worse than having people feeding you lies, feeding you compliments, and just making you feel good, as opposed to being business and performance related in their responses. So it's all about sticking to the business and making sure that you've got a business relationship, or you've got an open relationship with your friends, your family, your clients, that you can ask them the tough questions and get some honest responses. So at least you know where you're standing, and you understand where the other person's commitment is and what their intentions are, and whether or not they're going to follow through, or they're just going to meander and drift off into the distance after you hang up the phone or you walk out of the meeting. There's nothing worse than wasting your time and at least thinking that you're making good progress when you're actually going backwards or going nowhere. So a person interested in you, this is another lesson that comes from this book, anybody who's interested in us will ask you questions and try and get a detailed idea on what you're talking about. So what we need to do is we need to unravel and uncover the people who are genuinely interested in what we're saying and what we're doing, rather than wasting our time looking for business, or looking for opportunity, or looking for commitment, or looking for friendships where friendships do not exist. So the author here is basically says cut the chatter, cut the small talk, and make sure you're asking the right questions so that you're getting the right commitments and the right, you're going down the right path. The second point that comes from this book is where the author talks about the importance of looking for a niche in a market, and that markets, people in general, are full of answers, but you need to know how to look for those answers by asking the right probing questions, the right uncomfortable questions. They're uncomfortable for you and they're uncomfortable for the person that you're asking them of, but at the end of the day, as we said, it's liberating when you tell the truth and when somebody gets the truth out of you, so that you know where you stand, they know where they stand, and there's no facade, there's no fakeness in the connection that you have, and and people respect each other. If somebody doesn't love you, if somebody doesn't enjoy being with you, by knowing that, it is in it and of itself good for both parties, because you can continue to have a shallow relationship. You can continue to have a typico, a high level relationship with people, and that can be cordial, it can be nice. A lot of people have it in families as well. You catch up for Christmas, you catch up for Easter, you catch up for parties every now and then, but you do it, as the Greeks say, to keep the typika happening, but to not in any way, shape or form give them the impression that you're committing fully to them in terms of friendships or relationships, but to just be there to make up the numbers. It's sad, but it's true. A lot of people who you think are your friends, I remember reading this and doing a book summary on it a little while ago. A lot of the people who you think are your friends, if they were asked who their friends were, you may not even appear in that circle or on that list. Not everybody is on the A list in terms of friendships. Even though you may think that you're close to people, you're close to your manager, you're close to your director, you're close to your customers, when they're asked or when they're probed in terms of who the people that they respect and who are close to them, it could be a different list altogether, which doesn't include your name. So it's important to understand that. But as the author here says, we need to look for niches in markets. We need to mark, and there are plenty of answers out there. It just means that we need to gain insight. We need to ask the right answers. We need to ask the right questions, interpret the answers openly and honestly to ourselves in order to get the valuable insights. And the last point that comes from this book is that we need to stay casual in our approach with our friendships, with our relationships, with our business connections. Gone are the days where formality was the way the way forward and the way expected. These days people are more casual. People have given up the tie and try to connect people with people in a more casual way, because through casuality you stay comfortable, and when people are comfortable, when customers are comfortable, when partners are comfortable, when families are comfortable, they tend to open up and to be more responsive and more honest with each other. So the key is to try and eliminate, where possible, formality, and to make things easy flowing, I guess is a way of saying it. And I remember years ago, many years ago, investing in a seminar called the Tom Hopkins Sales Boot Camp, where we went on a retreat for 3 days, and Tom Hopkins talked about the importance of not spooking your customers and being very casual in your approach and not referring to contracts as contracts, but by referring them as paperwork, and doing whatever you can just to get the client to move in the direction you want them to move without spooking them, because by spooking them they put up their defences and it makes it harder to close the deal. Excuse me. So it's all about testing your theories, testing your ideas, and asking the right questions of the people in your life, be it your business life, your personal life, your family life, your career, having a relationship where you're able to ask your manager, being able to ask your partner, your children, the right questions, and getting tough but real, raw answers and responses so that you both grow, you both develop. And it's through these tough questions and these tough times that you get your best insights, because it involves authenticity. It involves a little bit of pain, a little bit of discomfort. But as we say, as we've learnt, that the only way to grow, the only way to develop is by leaning just outside your comfort zone. Because just outside your comfort zone is where your growth is. If Hercules didn't have his labours, didn't have his struggles, didn't get his dose of suffering and pain, if Jason and the Argonauts didn't have their challenges, if Ulysses or Odysseus didn't go through his challenges, then he wouldn't have grown as a person, and today we wouldn't even know who he was, or didn't know who they were, male or female. The saints of the Christian church achieved their sainthood through suffering, through pain. Jesus expressed his love of mankind through suffering, through pain, through death even. But it just we need to understand that at the end of the day, life is a path, life is a journey, which is not an easy journey. And we need to grow and develop through challenges, through asking the right questions and gaining insight through those answers and through those journeys. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's time for me to head off to the train station. We're just getting first light coming through now, and as you can see, it's an overcast day. The sun, the light, is trying to battle with that dark cloud cover, and it looks like it'll be a wet day today, and I might get to go home a little bit earlier than normal. I'm going to the ballet tonight. For those who are not aware, my wife and I have been subscribers to the Australian Ballet for close to 40 years now. Ever since we were just engaged, boyfriend and girlfriend, we'd be going to the ballet 4 times a year, and that's our date night that we've been able to keep and to cherish. But tonight I'll be going by myself because Paula is overseas caring for her mother and spending some time with her sisters and going through some challenging times that we all need to go through at some point in time in our lives. But that's what life's all about, sadly. But what can you do? There's nothing much you can do other than to address it and to deal with it and to express your love as best you can. Well, take care everybody on this wonderful Wednesday, this hump day, and we'll chat again shortly, hopefully, where we go through and do another book summary and expand our OPE, our other people's experience, and the life hacks that we have to leverage in our lives. Yasas, take care, and bye for now.